As an academic, I worked on homophobia in a few books, and I wanted to go beyond from theory to practice. So that's why in 2005 I launched this initiative, the International Day Against Homophobia. And I chose May the 17th because it is the day when, in 1990, the World Health Organization decided to remove homosexuality from their list of mental disorders. So that seemed to be a very good choice because it is a positive date, it is international, and also I think and I hope it will be possible to ask the World Health Organization to make for trans people tomorrow what they did for gays and lesbians yesterday. So nowadays, this day is celebrated de facto by organizations in about 50 countries in the world, and it is officially recognized by the European Parliament, also by a few countries like Belgium, UK, Mexico, Costa Rica, France, and a few provinces or regions in Canada, Spain, Italy, etc. So I hope Portugal will be the next country on the list leading human rights in the world. Homosexuality is criminalized in about 80 countries in the world, and death penalty is possible in about 9 or 10 countries as well. Of course, here in the north, the problem is more criminal discrimination, and in many countries in the south, the problem is more criminalization. But I think it is very important to understand that the social situation in the north, of course, even if it seems more favorable, can still lead to death and suicide. For instance, we tend to neglect and ignore the problem of suicide that is caused not by homosexuality, but by homophobia or heterosexism. Figures show that about 40 or 50% of youngsters that commit suicide are youngsters who in fact feel not heterosexual. So, of course, in the south you may think of some countries that apply death penalty, but in the north many youngsters, or not only young youngsters in fact, commit suicide. What is better? I don't know. Of course, there are some differences between being black and being gay. The first difference is a question of visibility. It's not necessarily obvious that you are gay or lesbian, and most of the time it is obvious that you are black. For instance, gays or lesbians may try to hide the fact that they are not heterosexual. It's more difficult, of course, for a black person. Also, I think it's very important to understand a few social phenomena. For instance, I would say that black persons are most exposed to discrimination than to stigmatization. And reversely, gays and lesbians are more exposed to stigmatization than to discrimination. What does it mean? Technically speaking, discrimination is the fact that you refuse to give employment, goods or services to somebody for a particular reason. Of course, if the person in front of you is black, it is very easy to say, oh no, I won't give you any job because there's no job. So it is easy to discriminate a black person, but it is not so easy to discriminate a gay or lesbian person because you don't necessarily see it. But stigmatization, which is the negative attitude or opinion that you may have about somebody, is stronger on gay and lesbian than on black people. Make a little test. If you go to the street and you ask to Mrs. Anybody, excuse me, madam, but what about your son? Would you prefer your son to marry a white man or a black woman? I think everybody would say, oh, well, if I have to choose, I would prefer my son to marry a black woman, which shows that stigmatization is harder on homosexuality than on black people. But this is also very important to understand from a political point of view, because you don't fight against stigmatization in the same way as you should fight against discrimination. To fight against discrimination, it is possible to make laws. Well, in fact, they are always difficult to improve, but you can make laws because they already exist and you can go beyond. But as far as stigmatization is concerned, you cannot make a law against bad opinion. And hopefully, there is a freedom of opinion and there is no law against that. So it doesn't mean that there is nothing to do against stigmatization? No. Of course there are things to do, but the only thing you can do is education. And this is the only way to fight against stigmatization, which is so hard on gays and lesbians in particular. So laws are important, education is even more important.